May the words of my mouth and the meditation of our hearts be acceptable and pleasing in your sight, O Lord our God. One of the most beautiful passages in the Gospels, isn't it? Wonder if you know it off by heart. Come to me, all of you who are weary and heavy laden, or carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Right, stand up, all of you who are carrying burdens this morning. I guess in some way, shape and form that is all of us, isn't it? Because burdens come in different ways, shapes and forms. And if I'm entirely honest with you this morning, it's been a hell of a week this week, and we have another family crisis to deal with. I'm not going there, but it is a significant family crisis for my middle daughter. And so once again, I ask your prayers. And I'm not saying that for pity. I'm not saying that for any other reason other than to acknowledge I am burdened. We are burdened. And there is only one place that we can find rest for our souls this morning. This world, indeed, if we think about our world this morning, it's also burdened, isn't it? There's so much horror and nonsense and rubbish that goes on in the world out there. We live in an age that promises convenience. Everything is at your fingertips, isn't it? And yet we are exhausted. You know, if you want to order a ready meal, just click on your phone and it arrives at the door. And yet we are hungry. Not in the physical sense, but we are hungry for something deeper, something more meaningful. We live in a connected age. I mean, these things, for goodness sake, the whole world is right at your fingertips. And yet many people are more lonely and more isolated than we have ever been. I remember watching, this is going to be really sad, you know the American guy, Dr. Phil, the psychiatrist? He had a young man on there and he said his parents are irrelevant. And they were irrelevant because they didn't have any friends on Facebook. What on earth? Devices designed to save us time leave us with no time to spare because we spend all our time on these devices. So what are these burdens in our modern context? And you will have personal ideas of what your burden is that you are carrying this morning. And I will be 100% safe to say we all carry a burden. Financial uncertainty. Welcome to All Saints, Dianella. Family pressures. In whatever shape or form they take. Loneliness. Many people are lonely. Mental health struggles. The world is full of that. Anxiety about a world that is so unstable and often living right on the edge of destruction. It's really, really difficult. But for some people, they wear their busyness on their shoulder as a sign of, I'm successful, I'm busy. You might be successful and you might be busy, but you're successful only in the eyes of the world. No wonder people are tired and exhausted. And this morning, therefore, the words of Jesus ring loudly into our parish here this morning and indeed into our world. Come to me. Come to me. He doesn't say come to a philosophy. He doesn't say come to a course and I will teach you about stress management. Just come to me. Christians have faith in this Jesus. But fundamentally this morning, when Jesus says come to me, he's talking about this underlying reality of the Christian faith. Our faith is in God and specifically in Jesus and in a relationship with him. And when we are in relationship with him, As you will know, in a relationship that's true and sincere and open and honest, then we can be completely honest with Jesus and say to him this morning, I'm having a crap morning. I'm burdened, I'm weary, and I'm tired. And Jesus then says, I will give you rest. And then he says something completely counterintuitive. Take my yoke upon you. What is a yoke? In its truest sense, it's that thing that often we associate with oxen or something like that, and you put this yoke on their shoulder and it's got a pole behind it, and it's tied in this case either to a plough or to a cart or a carriage of some kind. A yoke is a symbol of burden and of work, and probably in the case of this, of pain, because there'll be the weight of this yoke upon the shoulder, and then as soon as the farmer digs that plough into the ground and gets the oxen moving, there will probably be even more pressure and maybe even bleeding and pressure on those shoulders. Take my yoke upon you. It seems counterintuitive to say, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. It occurred to me this morning, actually, as I was thinking about this and reflecting it, more often than not, when you see a yoke, there are two of the beast of whatever kind it is, two oxen or two cows or whatever it is. And then I looked at the shape in the middle. What shape is that? How many people carried Jesus' cross? Two. Jesus could not carry his cross. Under the weight of the world's sin and of the beating that he'd been through, he fell down and he fell down and he fell down and he couldn't carry his cross. And they got someone to carry Jesus' cross with him. Jesus knows what it's like to carry a heavy, heavy burden. And he knows what it's like for somebody to help him carry that burden. And in return, he says to me, come to me and I will carry your burden with you. He doesn't say, I will take your burden away. Indeed, this morning, I think the pain of the Christian walk is that often those burdens do not leave us, but we learn how to carry them with Jesus carrying it alongside of us. Do you see the difference? See, if Jesus was to say, I'm going to lift all your burdens away from you, often in our humanity we'll say, oh great, thank you, off, I'm gone. But often Jesus requires us to continue carrying those burdens so that we have a dependence in some way, shape or form on him, because we know that in him is the only place we find rest for those burdens. So what does Jesus' yoke look like then? If he says, take my yoke upon you and learn from me, what does that mean? I wonder if you've ever thought about that. What about if we're carrying a burden of guilt and the yoke we put on our shoulders is one of grace? In the midst of our guilt, Jesus gives our grace. Grace is unearned, unmerited, and undeserved kindness towards us. He sees the guilt and yet he gives us the grace. And if we're fearful in our world, what does he give us? Perhaps he gives us love and security in the midst of uncertainty and in the midst of fear. What about anxiety? Many people are anxious about this world, and in the yoke of Jesus is a peace in the face of that anxiety. Jesus' yoke is easy and light even while we continue to carry our burdens this morning, because he carries them with us. He walks beside us and he carries the yoke of all of our burdens. So you see, it's a common yoke. We take his and he takes ours, and together we carry it, like these two oxen working together. I think there's many people in the church this morning who might not get this, because I think this truth and this reality of come to me Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. I think one can only find that rest and that certainty of God being with us to an extent when we are broken. We can only fully know relief when we know what it is not to have relief. And I fear that in the modern Christian church, and I'll use that word in inverted commas, there is so much lukewarmness and so much tepidity that people actually don't have this full-on relationship with Jesus, and therefore don't know what it is to experience Jesus walking really, really, really closely with him. Because to be a 1 hour on a Sunday Christian is not to have a relationship. And not to have a relationship means you don't have the intimacy and the closeness with that person. I'm talking generally as well as with Jesus. And if you don't have that intimacy and closeness with that person, then you don't know what it is like for that person to be right in the midst of your situation and carrying the burden with you. So the tepidity and lukewarmness of the Christian church, I believe, makes people miss this morning. And so my encouragement to you this morning is, as I do this morning with whatever's going on in the background, is I run into the arms of Jesus. I run into the arms of Jesus because he knows. There is no one in the world who knows exactly what I am dealing with. There is no one in the world, unless you've been really, really honest, who knows exactly what you are dealing with. But God knows entirely what you are dealing with this morning. And so I urge you this morning then to run into the arms of Jesus. When we are struggling with our own efforts and our own, trying to carry our own burdens, and when we are trying to carry the burdens of the world without having Jesus at the center and the core of our life, to some extent that in itself creates a fatigue. It will create, and I'm talking from experience here, when you're walking alone and you're walking through a really difficult time and experience, you will get fatigued emotionally, you will get fatigued psychologically, and again I'm speaking from personal experience, when I go off on a tangent, I get fatigued spiritually. And so in a sense, all of those three things are burdens in and of themselves. And it's only when we allow Jesus to walk alongside us with that yoke on his shoulders as well as mine, and when I acknowledge that I'm unable to carry my burden on my own and I need Jesus at the core of my life, it is then that you feel that weight lift. It is not then that the problems go away, it's when the weight of those problems begin to lift, when we walk entirely with Jesus on our side. And so I think this morning, this message is not about a deep theological sermon. This morning is about reminding each and every one of us of the burdens that we carry. And it's about reminding ourselves that no end of sermons will ever relieve that weight and burden that we carry. And that the only way to relieve the weight of the burdens that we carry here this morning is to allow Jesus to do that for us. And so I'm inviting you into a place of contemplation at the moment and reflection. I'm inviting you into a place of honesty. And I'm inviting you now to turn your thoughts away from me and me speaking here, and to perhaps even close your eyes and to look into the eyes of Jesus and to look at him this morning completely honestly and to lay down your burdens at his feet. It's acknowledging that if I take up the yoke of Jesus upon my shoulders, the weight of my burdens will diminish, even though the problems don't necessarily resolve. As we do that and we look into Jesus' eyes this morning and become entirely focused on him, we lose the burden of a divided and lonely heart spiritually, and acknowledge that Jesus and God is our fortress, our rock, our strength, the one who brings us through every burden this morning. And in that we discover a strange peace, a peace that passes all understanding in the midst of the troubles of this world and of this life. Come to me, all who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Please listen to Jesus this morning. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke, says Jesus, is easy, and my burden is light. As I was reflecting upon this and preparing for this morning, a wonderful, wonderful hymn came to mind. And I'm going to share that hymn with you this morning. It's an instrumental hymn with the words of the hymn on the screen. And again, I'm going to invite you just to relate to God this morning in the midst of his words to us, come to me. And allow these words to wash over you, and allow Jesus to pick up that burden with you as you take on yourself the yoke that he offers us of grace, of mercy, of peace, of healing, of forgiveness, of acceptance, of compassion, of deep, unshakable, immovable love. I'm going to give us a few moments just to relate to that Jesus this morning as he invites us to come. Lay down, O weary one, lay down your head upon my chest. I looked at Jesus as I was, weary, worn, and sad. I found in him a resting place, and he has made me glad. Loving, merciful Jesus, this morning I pray that you would open every one of our hearts here this morning to those wonderful, wonderful words you speak to each and every one of us this morning. Come to me, all of you who are tired and heavy laden. Take my yoke upon me and learn from me. I'm gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. My yoke is easy and my burden is light. And we can continue in that mode of prayerfulness. As our offertory hymn will be this hymn, I heard the voice of Jesus say. And so as we hear those words afresh, come to me this morning, and I will give you rest. We can truly and gratefully and lovingly say to each other, the Lord be with you.